made virtually on this Shabbat morning and our Shabbat Storytime. It is great seeing you all here today as we begin our day of Shabbat, as we begin this morning of Shabbat, waking up to a new day, waking up to the possibility that this day brings. And we come to you today, as we do each week, to start off this Shabbat morning with some singing and with some stories. And I hope that wherever you are, you'll join me in singing Bim, Bam, Bim, 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 Bam, Bim, 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 Bam, Chiri, Biri, Biri, Bim, Bam, Bim, 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 Bam, Bim, 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 Bam. Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Ma yafeh hayom. Shabbat Shalom, Ma yafeh hayom. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. In just a few weeks, we have a really super fun holiday coming up called Purim. And so for the next couple weeks, we're going to start off story time with some Purim stories. So our first story today is called The Mystery Bear, a Purim story. And it's by Leonie Adelson and illustrated by Naomi Howland. Something woke Little Bear from his winter sleep. It wasn't his mother. She was still fast asleep. What was it? His stomach rumbled as though to say, I did. That was it. Little Bear was hungry. He hadn't eaten anything since last fall, and here it was nearly spring. No wonder he was hungry. He stuck his head out of the den. Yes, it was spring. The snow was almost gone. There must be something out there for a winter-hungry bear to eat. Little Bear's shaggy head swung this way, that way, looking. His black nose twitched this way, that way, sniffing. Good news from his nose, a smoke smell. Little Bear didn't know much about the world, but he did know that where there was smoke, there might be cooking. Where there was cooking, there was food. And that's where Little Bear wanted to be. As fast as he could put one furry foot in front of the other, off he went, sniffing all the way. And there it was. The delicious smell was coming from the chimney of a little house by the river. The front door of the house was open, and Little Bear could see people inside. The grown-ups were taking food from the stove to the table. The children were leaping around and tooting horns and shaking wooden rattles. What a frightening noise they made. Little Bear hid behind a tree, watching and tried to decide what to do. His feet said, run away. His nose said, stay. His stomach said, I'm hungry. Run away, stay, run away. Suddenly, through the woods came a crowd of people. They were singing and playing music and beating drums. They wore masks and crowns and beards and false noses. One was even wearing a whole horse's head. But Little Bear had eyes only for what they were carrying. Such good things. Fruit and nuts and honey. Little Bear's mouth watered. Honey, to a hungry bear, honey is better than money. Little Bear came up behind the parade of masqueraders and followed it to the open door. No one stopped him. No one thought he looked strange. After all, it was Purim, and at Purim people dress as they like. Little Bear stood up on his haunches and peered into the house. The father of the family saw Little Bear and took him by his paw. Don't just stand there dressed up in your wonderful bear suit, he cried. Come in, whoever you are. Eat, drink, it's Purim. Little Bear wasted no time. First he took a pawful of honey, then a swallow of apple juice to wash it down, then a pawful of raisins, followed by another swallow of apple juice, then a delicious hamantash. With all the food and the drink and the noise, he began to feel a little bit dizzy. Who is that dressed up in the bear costume? Somebody wanted to know. If he wasn't so short, I would say it was Bella the tailor, said the reply. Bella makes wonderful suits. See how it fits him? Not a wrinkle. No, 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 it's Peschel the pickle seller, said another. She always has the best Purim costume. It's Heschel the herring man. I'd know his bandy legs anywhere, someone else said. Hey, Heschel, said the man, gave Little Bear a nudge to get his attention. You don't have any noisemakers, the man went on. Here, you can have one of mine. He put a cap with bells on Little Bear's head. Little Bear looked up from the feast and gave a tiny growl. Itzik heard it and tugged at his mother's skirt. Mama, he whispered, I think it's a real bear. His mother laughed. A real bear? In David's house? Drinking juice? Eating Hamadeshin? Don't be silly, my son. The leader of the masqueraders stood up on the chair. Listen, everyone, he cried. It's time for the Purim play. Where's Queen Esther and the king Ahasuerus and Mordecai? Where are you? Stand here with your horse, and all you people of Persia gather around. That's it. Now where's Haman? Boo. As always on Purim, at the word Haman, such a booing and horn blowing and drum beating broke out that the little house shook and the dishes on the table jumped. The noise was too much for Little Bear. He sank into a big, comfortable chair and closed his eyes. All he wanted to do was to be left alone. Everyone must be part of the Purim spiel, called the leader. You too, Bella Heschel Pessel. Whoever you are, you have to be one of the Persians too. Come on. The little bear could hardly move. He was too full of good things, and he was very, very sleepy. Never before had he gotten up as early as he had that morning, so he stayed where he was. The people shouted in his ear, they shook him, and they tickled him. Little Bear gave a tiny growl. Only Itzik heard it. He tugged at his mother's sleeve. Don't touch him. He's a real bear. I just know it, he whispered, but no one paid any attention to Itzik. Wake up, they shouted at the mystery bear. It's time for the Purim play. Someone poked Little Bear with a stick. The point of the stick landed right in the middle of Little Bear's full belly. He gave a tiny grunt. Itzik heard that too. Itzik tugged harder at his mother's skirt. Mama, he whispered, don't touch him. He's a real bear, I tell you. But his mother did not hear him. She gave Little Bear a shake to wake him up. That was too much for Little Bear. He leaped out of the chair with a roar. His white teeth flashed and his mouth opened wide to show his great red tongue. All the Purim players shrank back in fear. It's a bear, they cried. It's a real bear. Run for your lives. The people tumbled out of the house and ran to hide. They hid in barrels, they climbed trees, they scrambled onto rooftops. They crowded into the cowshed and hid behind cows. Some even jumped into the river. But Little Bear did not chase them. Why should he? He did all he could eat and drink. All he wanted now was to go back to his den and finish his winter sleep. He started toward the woods, but for some reason he could not stay on the path. Little Bear was too sleepy and too full of food. Itzik and his mother came out from behind the haystack where they had been hiding and watched the little bear disappear among the trees. I tried to tell you, Mama, said Itzik. I tried to tell you he was a real bear. And you were right, said his mother. What a smart son I have. She gave him a hug. Little Bear crept into his den. There lay his mother, still fast asleep. Little Bear snuggled as close to her as he could. She threw a great paw around him. He gave a deep, deep sigh, and soon both of them were finishing their long, long winter sleep. The end. So I'm getting excited for Purim, and just in a couple weeks, we can all get together on Zoom for our fabulous Purim party. I'll tell you more about that in a minute after we read our next story. Our next story is called The Three Little Wolves and the Big Bad Pig. That sounds a little different than how I normally know the story. Let's see what happens. And this story is by Eugene Trivizas and Helene Oxenbury. Once upon a time, there were three cuddly little wolves with soft fur and fluffy tails who lived with their mother. The first was black, the second was gray, and the third was white. One day, the mother called the three little wolves around her and said, "My children, it is time for you to go out into the world. Go and build a house for yourselves, but beware of the big, bad pig." "Don't worry, Mother, we will watch out for him," said the three little wolves, and off they went. Soon they met a kangaroo, who was pushing a wheelbarrow full of red and yellow bricks. "Please, will you give us some of your bricks?" asked the three little wolves. "Certainly," said the kangaroo, and she gave them lots of red and yellow bricks. So the three little wolves built themselves a house of bricks. The very next day, the big bad pig came prowling down the road and saw the house of bricks that the little wolves had built. The three little wolves were playing croquet in the garden. When they saw the big bad pig coming, they ran inside the house and locked the door. The pig knocked on the door and grunted, little wolves, let me come in." "No, no, no," said the three little wolves. "By the hair on our chinny chin chins, we will not let you in, not for all the tea leaves in our china teapot." "Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down," said the pig. So he huffed and he puffed and he puffed and he huffed, but the house wouldn't fall down. But the pig wasn't called big and bad for nothing. He went and fetched his sledgehammer and he knocked the house down. The three little wolves only just managed to escape before the bricks crumbled, and they were very frightened indeed. "We shall have to build a stronger house," they said. Just then, they saw a beaver who was mixing concrete in a concrete mixer. "Please, will you give us some of your concrete?" asked the three little wolves. "Certainly," said the beaver, and he gave them buckets and buckets full of messy, slurry concrete. So the three little wolves built themselves a house of concrete. No sooner had they finished than the big bad pig came prowling down the road and saw the house of concrete that the little wolves had built. They were playing battledore and shuttlecock in the garden, and when they saw the big bad pig coming, they ran inside their house and shut the door. The pig rang the bell and said, "Little frightened wolves, let me come in." "No, no, no," said the three little wolves. "By the hair on our chinny chin chins, we will not let you in, not for all the tea leaves in our china teapot." "Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down," said the pig. So he huffed and he puffed and he puffed and he huffed, but the house didn't fall down. But the pig wasn't called big and bad for nothing. He went and fetched his pneumatic drill and smashed the house down. The three little wolves managed to escape, but their chinny chin chins were trembling and trembling and trembling. "We shall build an even stronger house," they said, because they were very determined. Just then, they saw a truck coming along the road carrying barbed wire, iron bars, armor plates, and heavy metal padlocks. "Please, will you give us some of your barbed wire, a few iron bars and armor plates, and some heavy metal padlocks?" they said to the rhinoceros who was driving the truck. "Sure," said the rhinoceros, and he gave them plenty of barbed wire, iron bars, armor plates, and heavy metal padlocks. He also gave them some plexiglass and some reinforced steel chains, because he was a generous and kind-hearted rhinoceros. So the three little wolves built themselves an extremely strong house. It was the strongest, securest house one could possibly imagine. They felt absolutely safe. The next day, the big bad pig came prowling along the road as usual. The three little wolves were playing hopscotch in the garden. When they saw the big bad pig coming, they ran inside their house, bolted the door, and locked all 37 padlocks. The pig dialed the video entrance phone and said, "Little frightened wolves with the trembling chins, let me come in." "No, no, no," said the little wolves. "By the hair on our chinny chin chins, we will not let you in, not for all the tea leaves in our china teapot." "Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down," said the pig. So he huffed and he puffed and he puffed and he huffed, but the house didn't fall down. But the pig wasn't called big and bad for nothing. He brought some dynamite, laid it against the house, lit the fuse, and the house blew up. The three little wolves just managed to escape with their fluffy tails scorched. "Something must be wrong with our building materials," they said. "We have to try something different." But what? At that moment, they saw a flamingo coming along pushing a wheelbarrow full of flowers. "Please, will you give us some flowers?" asked the little wolves. "With pleasure," said the flamingo, and he gave them lots of flowers. So the three little wolves built themselves a house of flowers. One wall was of marigolds, one of daffodils, one of pink roses, and one of cherry blossoms. The ceiling was made of sunflowers, and the floor was a carpet of daisies. They had water lilies in their bathtub and buttercups in their refrigerator. It was a rather fragile house, and it swayed in the wind, but it was very beautiful. Next day, the big bad pig came prowling down the road and saw the house of flowers that the three little wolves had built. He rang the blue bell at the door and said, "Little frightened wolves with the trembling chins and the scorched tails, let me come in." "No, no, no," said the three little wolves. "By the hair on our chinny chin chins, we will not let you in, not for all the tea leaves in our china teapot." "Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down," said the pig. But as he took a deep breath, ready to huff and puff, he smelled the soft scent of the flowers. It was fantastic. And because the scent was so lovely, the pig took another breath and then another. Instead of huffing and puffing, he began to sniff. He sniffed deeper and deeper until he was quite filled with the fragrant scent. His heart grew tender, and he realized how horrible he had been. Right then, he decided to become a big, good pig. He started to sing and to dance the tarantella. At first, the three little wolves were a bit worried. It might be a trick. But soon they realized that the pig had truly changed. So they came running out of the house. They started playing games with him. First, they played pig pong, and then piggy in the middle. And when they were all tired, they invited him into the house. They offered him tea and strawberries and wolfberries and asked him to stay with them as long as he wanted. The pig accepted, and they all lived happily together ever after. The end. I hope you enjoyed our books this morning, our stories today. It was great seeing all of you here for our Shabbat morning story time. As I said earlier, we have Purim coming up. And on February 28th, we're going to have a big Purim celebration. We're inviting Shira Klein, also known as Shirlala, to join us for our Purim celebration. And she's a great singer and storyteller and songwriter and performer. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's also going to be costume contests for adults, for kids, and for families. So dress up in your favorite costume and join us on February 28th for our Purim party at 4:30 p.m. In the meantime, Storytime will be back here next Saturday morning at 9:15. Until then, I hope you have a great week. Shabbat Shalom and Lehitraot, my friends. We'll see you soon. Shalom Chaverim, Shalom Chaverim, Shalom, Shalom. Lehitraot, Lehitraot, Shalom, Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.